Hello and welcome to episode 54 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me for this particular test, in which we will decide whether or not he is human, is Joe. Eep. So the film this week is Ex Machina, which is the 2015 movie about a robot. Following on from our robot movie last week.
Artificial intelligence season here at the How to Survive podcast.
So if you haven't seen Ex Machina, it's the Alex Garland film from last year. It is excellent. So you should go and see it. We are going to spoil all of it.
Yes.
And it is a very good film with a great story. Go watch it. This podcast is brought to you by the people who sell DVDs of Ex Machina. It's not really, just go buy it.
Yeah.
Or watch it. Do whatever. Anyway, so let's recap the plot of Ex Machina.
Obviously, we're gonna discuss how we'd survive if we were in the movie. But first we need to recap what actually happened.
What the hell happened?
What's going on here
in Ex Machina? So Caleb, played by Domhnall Gleeson, works for Blue Book, a software giant, and wins a competition to spend a week with the company's owner, Nathan, at his isolated home. Upon arrival, he is told he will in fact be taking part in a Turing Test, testing what Nathan believes is the first true artificial intelligence ever created. The AI in question is Ava, who has a robotic body and a human-like face. Nathan wants to know if Caleb is able to relate to her despite knowing that she is artificial. During their conversations, Ava expresses hints of a romantic interest in Caleb, and they quickly bond. During one conversation, a brief power outage leaves Nathan unable to observe Caleb and Ava. The power outage also locks all the doors as a security protocol. While they are unobserved, Ava tells Caleb that Nathan is a liar and not to be trusted. Nathan reveals that once the test is complete, he will upgrade Ava, essentially killing her. Caleb gets him drunk and steals his security keycard, finding disturbing footage of Nathan's interactions with previous experimental versions of Android models. He also discovers that the mute house servant Kyoko is an android. Ava reveals that she is causing the power outages herself and begs Caleb to help her escape. Caleb rewrites the security program so that during a power outage all the doors in the building open rather than lock. The next day, Nathan reveals to Caleb that he was able to observe his supposedly unwitnessed conversations with Ava, revealing that she was manipulating him into helping her escape. Ava causes another power outage, opening all the doors in the facility. Horrified, Nathan knocks Caleb unconscious and runs to stop Ava, who is teamed up with Kyoko, from escaping. Nathan destroys Kyoko, but is stabbed to death by Ava. Ava completes her body with skin from the previous Android models, and now appearing fully human, coldly locks Caleb alone in the facility to die. She gets on the helicopter meant for Caleb, and upon reaching a busy city intersection, disappears into the crowd.
Chilling stuff.
And that was Ex Machina. And it's a really chilling ending, isn't it?
Yeah.
It goes off in a bit of an unexpected direction, would you say?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. I think that's why it's one of my favourite films of the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's I think uncertainty.
You'd agree that it's my favourite film.
Yeah, you've said as much.
Yeah.
Uncertainty, I think, is the key to this film. Like, nothing is certain, ever. Like, why is he there? What's he supposed to be doing? Is she, does she love him? Is she faking it? Is Nathan in on it?
Is he mad?
Yeah.
It's... But I think that's why it works so well. It really does send you through all the different possibilities in your mind. And I like the structure because he's there for a week.
Yeah.
And you keep getting the intertitles flashing up of the day that they're on. And it sort of ramps up the tension all the way through. So it's like, something's going to happen. Yeah. But I remember watching it in the cinema and, I knew very little or nothing about the film. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a brilliantly done film. And it won the Academy Award for Best Special Effects, beating out the likes of Star Wars and any other special effects heavy movies that were released in the last year. So it's I think it's a fantastic film, and it's written and directed by one of the writers of 28 Days Later, who has worked with Danny Boyle, obviously. I think the pedigree there is obvious. and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next.
Yeah. Is it his first film?
It's the first film he directed, yeah.
Wow. I'm looking forward to the inevitable sequel in which Ava leads an army
Rise of the
robots.
Planet of the Ex Machinas.
Well, it would like last week's film. Maybe she's so set in that role that she's going to commit to just make as much money from it as she can.
What, so Ex Machina Judgment Day,
Yep.
Ex Machina Salvation.
Don't forget Ex Machina Rise of the Machines,
Yeah.
Ex Machina Genesis,
Mm.
and just destroy what is one good film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to compare the two films, really, isn't it? Because they both deal with sort of, relatively similar situations, which is that this is like the one robot that people of this generation have ever encountered.
Yes.
And, we as the audience are the cipher, or Caleb rather, is the cipher for us, just as Sarah Connor is in last week's film, in the Terminator. And so, we're seeing the machine, this new technology through their eyes. But obviously the Terminator is literally basically all about how he doesn't have any emotions or personality.
Yes.
Whereas this is completely different, and it's all about the personality and the emotions.
Perhaps she'd be a more effective Terminator. Except, we do see that she's basically made of glass, so that's not going to be too effective.
Exactly, yeah. Well, Kyoko, for example, gets smashed into pieces.
Yeah.
I think the film basically revolves around one central idea, and that idea is that there's a false equivalence between an AI passing the Turing test and actually having humanity.
Right. I think the metaphor he uses in the film is a computer playing chess. Is that you can play chess against your Game Boy, and it will present you with moves and it could win, but it doesn't actually know it's playing chess, right?
Yeah.
If you said to it, who's a chess grandmaster, it would say beep or something.
Yeah. It's rather than a machine that's designed to do one thing or follow set rules. It's more about just because Ava is able to pass as human, as we see in the end of the film, doesn't mean that she shares the ideas or the motivations of humans.
Right.
And I think this comes to the forefront, really, in the film's ending, where she locks Caleb in to die.
Yeah.
Or at least, he is going to die, right?
No one's coming back for him.
No, exactly. They're in an isolated place, and a point is made throughout the film that the security system
is flawless.
Yeah, and there's no, mobile phone reception. There's no way of contacting the outside world because the project that Nathan is working on is so top secret. To her, Caleb's usefulness is at an end once she's able to escape the facility, and so she leaves him to die. But does that necessarily make Ava evil?
I don't think it does, on the basis that Nathan makes a pointed remark at one point where he says something to the effect of that she isn't automatic. She if it was automatic, it would be predictable. It would just be a response to stimuli.
Yeah.
But she's programmed to make decisions that aren't obvious. So she thinks about things. So there is actually a thought process. She's obviously calculated what is optimal to her survival.
Yeah.
And I think there's a particular point where she's interviewing Caleb, and she's saying, so I can detect lies, and he's like, oh, this is really freaky. And she asks him, what's your favourite colour? And he says red, and she says, well, that's a lie. And one of the questions she asks is, are you a good person? And he's like, oh, well, that's a weird question. I think I'm a good person. And then she smirks at him.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point where she makes a decision that he's not a good person. Yeah. Because he's not altogether behind what he's doing there, right? Yeah. And despite the fact that he tries to relieve his own guilt by helping her.
Well, it's almost like that question is a precursor to her asking him to help her escape. Yeah. Because it's like planting the thought, am I a good person? Yeah. And
would a good person do this?
What would a good person do in this situation? Yeah. And clearly the conclusion he comes to is that he would help Ava, which is exactly what she wants. And I don't think she is evil, because based on if Nathan has developed true consciousness, then it becomes unethical for him to upgrade her, right, and destroy the destroy Ava as we know her.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very like disturbing scene as well where Caleb finds the videos of the other machines, the previous versions of Ava, and you know, there's the one that sticks in my mind is the one that's so desperate to escape that she like reduces her arms to
bare wire,
by just pounding on the door and screaming, which is a very like horrible, like it's a
Yeah.
very horror movie
yes,
scene.
yeah. I mean, it slowly does degrade into that, doesn't it? It goes
Yeah.
from like Nathan's a bit eccentric to Nathan is a mental, like deviant.
Yeah,
Like because
there's something disturbing about the fact that they're all women,
yeah,
and you see that most of them are all naked, and he
Yeah.
makes a point of saying that he builds them all with sexuality.
yeah. So he's obviously having sex with them.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, Kyoko, we see him
Yeah. Getting down with her,
undressing, yeah. And his comments to Caleb that he tailor-made Ava's face based on Caleb's porn
Yeah.
searches, because he has access to all that information.
Yeah.
But he becomes more and more sort of disturbing and pernicious, really. Like, you know, he's becomes more seedy as the film goes on, I think. And, you know, for that reason, Ava is the victim here, really.
Yeah. She's been created and kept prisoner.
Yeah.
Why is she behind glass? Is that ever explained?
In terms of what? Like, why keep her isolated?
Yeah.
I guess to just remove any possibility that she's going to escape by
changing the
or
security
like,
system.
or like grabbing Caleb and threatening to kill him or something. I don't know.
But she's pretty weak.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna delve deeper into the film here. This is my theory about the film.
Is it that it was all a dream?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it's actually that Caleb is a robot.
Right. Yeah.
Did you know? Well, if you go on YouTube, someone, I don't
Yeah.
know who, has put a video up saying, which is how Ex Machina should have ended.
Right.
And there's a scene in Ex Machina where Caleb, after having seen the videos of the various versions of the androids, he goes back to his room and cuts his arm open to check if he's human.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So someone,
we're also kind of thinking like maybe.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So someone has recut that scene with the scene from the Terminator where he looks inside his arm and there's wires moving and stuff, and then Caleb looks in the mirror and then the credits come up. And I think that is like an earnest attempt, like someone's actually gone, I know what to make this film better.
Seamless.
Yeah.
Because Dominic Gleeson looks anything like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Exactly, and it's a jump of like 40 years of film history. Yeah. But so I think that obviously a big deal is made out of the Turing Test.
Yes.
Thing. And obviously the normal Turing Test is that someone just sits at a terminal and communicates with somebody, and they don't know whether they're, you know, human or a machine, and they have to decide whether or not they are. And if a machine tricks somebody into thinking that it's a human, then it's passed the Turing Test.
Yes.
But obviously that doesn't apply exactly, because Caleb is aware that Ava is a machine, because she's walking around with a robot body. So I think as Nathan says in the film, the test is really to see whether or not he can build a rapport with her and build a relationship with her, which he does.
Yeah.
But I think that actually the test is as Nathan says later on in the film, is to see whether or not Ava is going to try and trick Caleb.
Yeah.
Because that's what requires that extra level of intelligence, like to know that if I manipulate you into doing this thing, then it's going to serve my aims.
Yeah.
And that's that sort of Machiavellian instinct is what he's looking for. But I think that the audience, obviously that Caleb is the audience's cipher in the film, but I think that the audience is being tested as well.
Sure.
Because we are also tricked into caring about Ava based on the human characteristics that she displays, which are totally false, and they're manipulative,
Right.
and it's like an intentional thing. The Wikipedia synopsis for this film, if you go and look at it, says that she leaves Caleb in the facility for unknown reasons.
Right.
But actually it's pretty easy to surmise, which is that he's outlived his usefulness.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when we're watching the film, and certainly this is what happened to me the first time, I presume it's the same with you, Nathan points out that Ava has been manipulating Caleb. And yet we still are more inclined to believe that Nathan is the threat.
Yeah.
And he is the liar. Even when Nathan is dead,
at her hands,
right, at her hands, we anticipate Caleb and Ava going off into the sunset to live out their weird, half-human robot life together, right?
Right.
That's why everyone has the rug pulled out from them when Ava just leaves him to die.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all because we have a human interpretation of the ways behaviour signal intention.
Yeah.
And so Ava acts in a certain way throughout the film, and we based on that go, oh, I know what she's going to do. She's in love with Caleb and they're going to go off and live happily together. But she's not human. Yeah. She's not a human. And Caleb is a threat to her secrecy and nothing else at that point. Like, that's the only thing, that's the only factor in her life that Caleb has anymore, is if I let this guy go, he is a risk that people might find out that I'm a robot.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason for her to keep him alive.
So you think it was a calculation?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And I think that the film is designed in a way to put us perfectly in Caleb's shoes. Yeah. And so that when he's left in the facility, the audience has been misled along with him. And I think what I'd love to see is an analysis of whether men's reactions differ to women's reactions when watching this film. Okay. So, because I reckon that there may be a sort of sexual romantic component to it as well, because the way in which she, endears herself to Caleb is sort of flirtatious. Yeah, exactly. And they talk about things that are sort of first date questions almost. Yes. Whereas I think that if, I reckon a heterosexual man or, someone who's interested sexually in women would be more inclined to buy into Ava being, this human
because it's a
person.
Desirability thing. Yeah. Like you'd want her to be.
Than a person who is not interested sexually or romantically in women. And I'd love to see if there's any information. Obviously it would be good if I could produce a graph here that says, actually, but I think that would be a fascinating thing to see whether or not women came out of the film, or heterosexual women came out of the film saying like, oh yeah, well, I was scared of Ava. Or, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I think most men who I know who have watched the film have been like blindsided by the twist. Yeah. And I think it's a calculated move on the part of the director to design the film in a way so that it makes you fall in love with Ava like Caleb does.
He does state his intentions through the characters. I mean, she was given sexuality for a reason, right? Yeah. That's said as much in the film. Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, we're even at that point in the film when Nathan says, "Look at this footage. She's manipulating you, and she's a liar." You're still going, "Nah, Nathan, you're a scumbag." Like. Yeah.
It's like the guy who made her, designed it, and knows the truth.
Yeah, and he's like, I put you in that situation and filmed it because I wanted to see whether or not she'd manipulate you, and she did. Yeah. And you're still going, well. But yeah, I think because of that, that's part of the reason it's one of my favourite films of the last few years. Yeah. And it's great.
Fair enough. Good analysis, I think. You mentioned that the questions she asked are kind of like first date questions. Yeah. But I don't think they are. I think they are more like the questions a website would ask you. Right. If it was gathering data. Okay. So she says, where do you live? And he's like, oh, I live in she says, is that nice? He's like, yeah, it's okay. So what do you do for work? He's like, oh, I code websites and, do all sorts of stuff like that. She said, is that good?
Yeah. Like, yeah. Is that a good thing?
Yeah. Yeah. Any family? And he's like, no, they died in a car crash. Yeah. And he's like, okay, right. Do you like Mozart? He's like, no, I like Depeche Mode. She's like, oh, okay, right. Are you friends with Nathan? Yeah. So these are all things Facebook would ask
people who bought Depeche Mode also bought.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's written. If someone was gathering data on someone, these are the questions they'd ask.
Yeah, it's like scraping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she's only taking this information so she can act on it. Yeah. She's not she doesn't actually have an interest in his music taste.
No, exactly.
She's just trying to get a better picture of him so she can act on that.
Tailor her behaviour to manipulate.
I mean, Facebook or MySpace or whatever would do that to serve you ads based on your preferences.
Yeah.
But she's doing it so she can manipulate you better in order to get her own get her own way.
It's like the natural extension of like. I mean, I'm sure everyone's noticed. I think it must be recently they've become a lot better. But Facebook ads are things like, like you send an email to somebody and you go like, oh, I'm just drinking this Evian water. Yeah. And then Facebook suddenly fucking serves up a load of adverts for Evian. Yeah. And you're like, fucking hell, this is
creepy,
like 1984.
Yeah.
And it's like the equivalent of that.
I recently got engaged and all I get now is like wedding stuff. Yeah. All I get. And... that's exactly what
she's doing.
She's just getting data. Yeah, it's genius, and I think that is not unintentional either. I think those questions are very specifically chosen. To tie in with that,
they're phrased in a certain way. Aren't they?
Because like, do you like it, and is he a friend? Those are ostensibly they're questions that you'd ask on a first date, but they're also Facebook questions. Yeah, and I don't think that's an accident.
No.
However, if her brain was based on a real search engine, I don't think it would be as effective as hers is.
Right.
Got a few examples here of Google's auto predict feature.
Okay.
Which, when you type in like, I want a, and it will say massage, and that's based on search frequency. So the more searches something gets, the more likely it is to recommend it.
Yeah, and that's the difference between intelligence and just maths, isn't it?
Exactly. Statistical probability of you asking a question.
Yeah.
So if you search what would A, it presents what would a chair look like if your knees bent the other way.
Right.
If you search do G, as in the letter G, it predicts, do ginger people have ginger pubes?
For fuck's sake. Right.
If you type how wrong, it says, how wrong we were to think that immortality meant never dying. It's quite philosophical.
Imagine if this is Ava's script.
If you type I am E, the letter E, the top one is, I am extremely terrified of Chinese people. Followed by, I am extremely depressed.
God, the fucking who's searching that? Like, isn't it like 1 in 10 people have depression in the world? So over 10% of people, by that logic, are extremely terrified of Chinese people.
And if you type in is a, the first one you get is a banana a herb?
Right.
Which, fair enough. I was actually discussing that yesterday, so I could well have googled that.
Right.
Then is Akon a Muslim? Akon the rapper.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
Is aluminium magnetic?
Yeah.
Is anybody there? Is a tomato a fruit? So, similar to the banana.
Yeah.
Is Akon Muslim? Again.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to know if Akon's Muslim.
It matters to people, clearly. I wonder why, Joe.
Yeah. Is a shark a mammal?
Right.
Is a potato a vegetable?
Yeah.
And is a coconut a nut?
Right.
So those are the things that Ava should be asking if her brain was really based on a search engine.
Yeah. And that would have been a very different film.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love to make that. Although actually, in its defence, search is getting better, Chris.
Yeah.
There's a thing called Rank Brain now. Okay. So that if you were to search for how tall is John Travolta, the next search should be like, and how old is he? And it would know you meant John Travolta.
Okay.
And it's more of a conversational style search.
Yeah.
But
do you work in sort of search engine based industry?
Yeah, Is it obvious?
Yeah, maybe.
You can't pull the wool over my eyes,
no.
Nathan.
No.
Yeah. One of the things that stuck with me the most about Ava is her willing, she wants to survive, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair enough because she's obviously sentient and stuff. But it reminded me of the scene in 2001 when they're shutting down Hal.
Right.
And this is one of the most the things that stuck with me for days afterwards. And I don't know why, but it's that when Hal is powering down. Spoilers for 2001: A Space Odyssey, by the way.
Yeah.
They're pulling the levers really slowly, and he starts singing a song,
and
then he says something like, "Oh, I can feel it."
Yeah.
oh, I can feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, imagine. Even though he's a computer, he's either he can feel it and it's horrible, or he's just manipulating them.
Yeah.
But it's horrible.
Freaky.
It's freaky. It's freaky. Exactly. Freaky is a good word for it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of why I'm on side with Ava here.
Yeah.
Even though she's a computer, she's like, obviously aware of it, and it's
Yeah. So how does that change your thinking when it comes to how to survive, Joe?
I think I should all just live happily ever after, Chris. Wouldn't that be nicer?
Yeah, it definitely would be. Yeah.
So my first idea on how to survive is more based on the question she asks.
Okay.
That's basically change your privacy settings, because you don't want to give these websites, these technologies too much data. So I went on networkworld.com.
Okay.
And I just asked, how do I stay safe online on social media? Number 1, don't give out personal information.
Okay.
Now that's the thing. He makes a mistake within 1 second of being there.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying his name, all sorts of stuff about him. Like I said, the list earlier, basically, and that's something you shouldn't do.
No.
Because it leaves you open to, data being stolen, information being stolen, identity theft maybe. But more importantly, a robot could manipulate you into being abandoned in a
facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 2, customize your privacy options.
Okay.
Not sure how that really applies to
real life.
Yeah. Number 3, limit your work history.
Okay.
And one of the things he talks about is how he's been an amazing coder, started coding when I was 13. Don't do that.
Okay.
Because it means that Ava can manipulate you again.
Yeah.
Number 4, don't trust, just verify.
Okay.
Now the whole film is him trying to verify whether Ava is on the level.
Yeah.
And he chooses to trust her when he shouldn't have trusted her.
No.
He should have verified.
Yeah.
He's given the opportunity to verify. He's told you should act on this information. She's just manipulating you.
Yeah.
And it's like if you accepted a friend request from someone called like Ali Al Jahad,
right?
And it was a blonde woman, who you've never met, and they said, "Oh, I want to be your friend, baby. Can we have sex tonight?"
Yeah.
You wouldn't accept that.
No.
Because you're able to verify pretty swiftly.
You have different stages of verification for that sort of
yes, exactly.
idea.
Something that Caleb seems to forget.
Yeah.
And number 5, control comments.
Okay.
Not sure again how that applies to this scenario, but I guess just stick to the question, will you? I don't want to hear about all this nonsense. Just
yeah.
So just that's one way to limit the information that she has available to her.
Does she count as malware, do you think? Because she is the term they use in the film is wetware.
Yeah, exactly.
For her sort of brain. Yeah.
Suggestion of it's like new technology.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No, that's good. Top tip information for anyone who's listening.
I don't think she is malware, by the way. She doesn't spread, does she?
No, that's true. Yeah. But she is malicious.
Yeah.
Or is she? She's self-surviving.
Getting into the philosophy of computer viruses now.
Yeah. My one sort of returns to what we were talking about earlier. Just as you don't expect a grizzly bear or a shark to have the same motivation when beginning a relationship with them, don't assume that an android does, because they have as much in common with you as a
piano,
or a polar bear or a car or anything. Because she's essentially a coldly logical, calculating machine that fakes emotions.
Yep.
So he knows all this, and he knows that she's artificial, but he still falls for her anyway, and falls for her ruse. So don't do that.
No, it would be like falling in love with your phone or something.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a film about that as well.
Is there?
Yeah, Her. Is,
right. Yeah. No, good point. Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, it's like what Werner Herzog says in Grizzly Man.
Yeah.
You
look there and you see a cute little bunny.
Yeah. But actually, all that's there is a cold disinterest.
Yeah. All I see is chaos.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what he should have been. The words of Werner Herzog should have been echoing around Caleb's mind as he was talking to Ava.
Yeah.
And that is something, like, if we consider the survival situation to start as soon as he arrives on the compound, which it does essentially.
Yeah.
Then that is something that he could have put into practice.
Yeah.
He starts out and Nathan is all like, "Oh no, you're thinking like a scientist and you're doing all this.
Yeah.
Good. You're a
Yeah,
scientist.
exactly. Yeah.
In this situation, you are a
You've been
scientist.
called upon. Yeah.
For a science experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's similar to that. Keep a professional distance.
Yeah.
Because we've seen The Sopranos.
Yeah.
This isn't too much of a spoiler because Tony is throughout the series. He's in psychiatry. He's in therapy.
That's the starting gun for the
exactly.
series.
And there's a point where he or someone becomes attracted to the psychiatrist, and is told it's just transference. The same thing happens in Frasier. One of Niall's patients becomes in love with him because of what's called transference. You begin to express an interest in someone, and because you can trust them, you feel like you're in love with them.
Yeah.
Now, a psychiatrist will recognise this and say, look, I'm here to do a job, and let's just get down to the details. Deal with what we've got to deal with here, answer the questions, and we'll come up with a solution. Yeah. Now, he doesn't maintain that professional distance, does he?
No, he doesn't, no.
Unethical is what I call it. It
is unethical, yeah. You couldn't publish this as an experiment.
No.
For many reasons. But you wouldn't find this in the New Scientist because it's experimental methodology is flawed.
Yeah, I don't know if he got a committee to approve this.
Yeah. Exactly. I've got a question for you, Joe.
Yeah.
That sort of prefaces my next survival idea.
Okay, go on.
And this takes place within the events of the film.
Yeah.
So, would you go somewhere, the location of which is a mystery to everyone, to meet a man no one seems to know or have met, who has been living alone for a long period of time for reasons more or less unbeknownst to anyone?
I mean, that's the plot of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
That's like it's basically like you won a competition to go meet Jack Torrance at the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of similarity to that.
Yeah.
Jack Torrance is a creative individual who's locked himself away in an isolated location to work on his pet project.
Yep.
No one's seen or heard from him for a long period of time, and it's had an effect on his psyche.
Yeah, he's begun talking to things he's created.
Exactly. Yeah. So would you accept this? You've won a lottery to go to the Overlook Hotel to meet Jack Torrance.
Well, I guess it's the equivalent of you work in, what would you call it? Video editing.
Yeah.
So I guess if some Hollywood editor.
Yeah.
Give me an example.
I don't know any off the top of my head. Or like a director.
If a director of if Spielberg said, "Oh, Chris, I'd love you to come out to my the Spielberg ranch, and we're going to shoot a movie. I want you to consult on editing it." Mm-hmm. Would you go, "No, I don't think."
No, but so. I wouldn't. But then if Spielberg hadn't been heard from for 10 years, and he lived in total isolation.
That did happen with Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have gone to Kubrick's manor?
But Kubrick did demonstrably have problems.
Yes.
With the people that he worked with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a calculated risk, isn't it? But I don't think Kubrick was ever in a place so isolated that Kubrick didn't have a mansion
by helicopter.
Yeah. He didn't have a mansion that had a security system set up. So, it's slightly different. But it's basically the equivalent of going to a stranger's house for a week.
Yeah.
But then again, he doesn't have anyone, as he says in the film, he doesn't have anyone to come looking for him either, which is probably part of the reason Nathan chose him in the first place.
Yeah.
So
he was selected pretty specifically.
Yeah.
Mm. Fair play, yeah. Fair idea. My final one is some advice for Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Examine your drinking habits, Nathan.
Yeah.
And this advice comes from WikiHow.
Okay.
Regular contributor. The National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines binge drinking as a pattern of drinking that brings blood alcohol concentration to levels above 0.0 grams per deciliter.
Okay.
For men, this usually takes about 5 drinks, and for women, usually 4 drinks. But he is hungover every day and drinks a bottle of whiskey every day, right? So these are the warning signs to look out for. You drink quickly, which he's doing shots and stuff. He's slamming them.
Yeah.
You regularly drink more than moderate consumption guidelines, which I'd say he certainly exceeds. You drink to get drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a tick.
He does do that, yeah.
You drink more than you intended to, or you lose track of how much you've drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And you've developed a tolerance for alcohol, so you need to drink more to get drunk.
Okay.
So we don't actually know what he was drinking before the film started. But
No.
he seems to be on a spiral, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does seem to. He seems to be able to drink quite a lot as well, by the
Yeah.
looks of things.
And he drinks alone as well.
Yeah, in isolation.
Yeah, these are the things that can trigger binge drinking. So maybe the things he needs to sort of solve in his own life to avoid all these issues.
Yeah.
Stress. Now that leads many people to drink. Maybe he's drinking to escape the stresses of home life, or relationships, or his work. Now all three of those things are important difficulties for him, aren't they, to overcome?
Yeah.
So, he's emotionally chaotic because of these things, and that's why he's drinking. Peer pressure. Now he doesn't have any friends, so it's hard to say that he's been.
Kyoko.
Yeah, she's not really pressuring him to drink.
No. Yeah.
And boredom can cause a lot of people to drink.
Yeah. I think those probably all apply.
Yeah, he seems to be. The whole thing seems to be just like something he's just thought up because he's bored.
Yeah.
And he's just playing with everyone.
Yeah.
There's something to do. So yeah, stop drinking so much, Nathan, and you might end up dead.
Yeah. Right, well that about covers it, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
That was How to Survive Ex Machina. Flawless survival ideas from both of us, as always. If you would like to get in touch with your own ideas, the email address is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @HowToSurvivePod. And don't forget to leave a positive, if you feel like it, iTunes review. And tell us what you think about the podcast. It really helps us gain a wider audience, which is what everyone wants.
Chris, one thing I've noticed lately is that the reviews on iTunes, they seem to have slowed down a bit, right? I mean, we like it when people leave us a 5-star review, and I encourage everyone to go and do that right now. 5 stars, iTunes, anywhere you listen to it, actually. Be sure to leave 5 stars. But I mean, like I say, we haven't had a fresh one in a few weeks now. I don't know if anyone likes us anymore.
Isn't it strange, Joe, to create something that hates you?
You're saying we created the audience?
We created the audience, much as Nathan created Ava in a lab.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, that's it. We'll see you next week.
Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.